Hey everybody, Randy Otterbridge here, author, speaker, and entrepreneur, and I hope this message finds you well, especially during a time like today. But in times like this, we need to be asking ourselves, what are our leaders doing? How are they leading us through this process, right? And in the business space especially, given the fact that so many people are going to be out of work, unfortunately, going to be asked to be sent home because they want that distancing, that social distancing thing to occur, right? So I asked an expert in his field, what should leaders be doing? I want to read this to you, right? So I'm talking with Robert Heath Sr., and he talked about 5 things that leaders should be doing during a time like this. Number 1, checking in on your people. How critical is that? Checking in on your people, making sure they're all right. Just a phone call will go a long way to show, guess what? That you care about them. It's not just the lost production that is going to be obvious in a lot of factories and a lot of companies, but checking in on your people. Now, this is another one. He said, this is a time to show that we are there for our teams. That's critical. People are going to be dealing with fear and anxiety and are going to need solid, stable leaders to look to and know that they can make it through. Think about that. Let's expand that. That's number 1. Let's expand that a little bit. Are you checking in on your teams right now? Are you calling them? Are you emailing them? Are you texting them? How are things going? What about people that are in their family? Showing that you care. Showing that they matter to you. Finding out about them. Talking them through maybe some of their anxieties. I understand that you know, leaders out there, you can probably just do a company-wide something or another, right, that your lawyers put together that, allows you to sound like a stilted person out there, someone who doesn't care. But listen to what Robert Heath Sr. is saying. He's saying, hey, check out on people. Just let them know that you're there. All right, now, here's number 2. Contemplating and mitigating for worst case scenarios. This is something that is absolutely unprecedented. Right? We have never shut this many, that I can recall, in my years on this earth, that we have shut companies down, right? That we have told people not to gather, right? We are a democratic society, after all, so we kind of do what we want to do, right? But now we're being asked, whether it's from our governors or mayors, to do specific things, to not go out, to not gather, for churches maybe to keep the members home. And that's, of course, going to create some scenarios of fear. But, like Robert talked about, contemplating and mitigating for worst case scenarios. Now, this is something else he says. While we don't want to get caught up in the hysteria and panic, it is important that we do realize that it could get worse before it gets better. This means that we need to think of ways to mitigate these downturns, so that our people don't get hit with the full brunt of the problem. I'm going to stop right there and expand on this a little bit. The full brunt of the problem. Now, first couple of days you might go, hey, I got a vacation. Next couple of days, you can go, wait a minute now. This vacation needs to be over, right? So the question becomes, what are leaders going to be doing? What are you guys out there doing right now as leaders to really speak to this, the full brunt of the problem? It's going to be financial. It's going to be habits, what you're used to doing during times like this. The fact that the kids may be home because they don't have school. The fact that you have to keep a elderly parent away from certain things because they may be at risk, or people that have other underlying conditions that they may be at risk. So these are the things that, as Robert Heath is talking about, is that, as a leader, you have to continue to be a part of, right? It could get worse before it gets better. Now, here's a suggestion. The best way to do this is to anticipate and be proactive. Now, we didn't know that this thing was going to hit like this, right? But now that it has, going forward, we have some things to kind of work on. But going forward, having something in place is going to be important. If something disastrous like this, a pandemic or whatever else it is, happens in the future, now you have an opportunity to plan for it. Right? So he talked about being proactive. Just be careful to come up with a fair, up for air often, so that you don't get caught up in the despair. Now that makes sense, right? Because we can get caught up in the hysteria. One of the things that I've tried to do is stay off of social media so much, because you're going to hear the conspiracy theories. You're going to hear all the stuff. And of course, as people, we're going to want to say something about it, right? And we could be speaking out of turn, or we can be speaking out of fear. We try to keep ourselves out of that despair. Try not to get caught up. Right, now, this is what he says next. Also, use the next exercise to lessen the effects of your worst case scenario planning. So now we get a chance to say, hey, this is a lesson. It's a big lesson. It's going to be a huge financial hit lesson, but there's something that we can learn from it. As a leader, what can you learn from it? And you can now maybe scenario these things out. 3, he says, finding the opportunities in those scenarios. Now, this is something I had been talking about last week. It's like, hey, look, while down, here's how a way you can protect some of your financial assets and protect things that may be coming at you all at once. And I laid out a couple of things. I don't want to talk about that here. But looking for opportunities is what Rob says. Looking for opportunities in all situations is the secret tip that all successful leaders use to stay on top. As Warren Buffett says, quote, when everyone is greedy, I'm cautious. When everyone is panicking, I get greedy. Now, you can speak into that you can think about that any way you want to, but the point is, when somebody's going left or somebody's zigging, you have the opportunity to zag. In other words, this is a panic right now. The stock market is going to heck in a handbasket, right? But you have the people that are out there saying to themselves, well, during times like this, if they have a hoard of cash, let's say with Warren Buffett, the Apples of the world, who have hundreds of billions of dollars in assets and cash just sitting around, this could be a good time to buy. Right? The scenarios and the situations around us show that maybe the company still may have good fundamentals, but you have a chance to buy. Right? So when everybody is panicking, this may be the time to get greedy, if we may use that kind of term right now. Right? All right, here's another thing he says. If you can keep yourself focused on the facts and not the emotion, then opportunities for growth and improvement always present themselves in times of crisis. Now, from this, let's think about this for a minute. And this is something I've been thinking about at my company. It's like, there is a significant amount of efficiencies that we can bring about as a result of this crisis, right? Because we're sending so many people home, but yet we're asking them to continue working, right? That might be, hey, look, you're going to need some technology. And if that employee gets really good at this, maybe they don't have to come back to the job, right? Which could also save you on a lot of things. It could save you on the heating. It could save you on the building space. If people are working from home and using specific technology to still get the job done, maybe you get out of this a happier employee. Because after all, they're at home. Maybe now they can save money on childcare. Why? Because they're at home and they don't have to send their child out. There's opportunities that come from situations like this, even though we're doing everything we can to stay as safe as possible. But I like what Rob is talking about here. And as leaders, we need to be constantly asking ourselves, where are those efficiencies? What can come out of this unfortunate situation? All right. So leader, let's get on that. All right. Here's another one that he talked about. And this was number 4, getting clarity on what good looks like. Now, let's think about that for a minute. As a company, you say to yourself, okay, we've been pretty good so far, but maybe some efficiencies come out of this, and we're getting just outstanding work from these at-home employees. I don't know. It could be a possibility that they're doing their best work because they're happier, because they don't have to travel, because they can do it at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, right? Knowing what good looks like so that you can make a comparison and then make some decisions as a result of this. All right, let's continue on what Rob is talking about. Number 4. We have to understand what good looks like for us coming out of this period. So often we can see clearly what we don't want, but it's important that we get clear on what a brighter day looks like so that we can appreciate the things that happen that let us know we are on that path. This also helps us to have the proper perspective for recognizing the opportunities that present themselves to us, right? If it weren't for day, we wouldn't appreciate night. right? And the fact that night happens and it's dark, we go, thank goodness for the sun. Summer, winter, the whole kind of thing. Out of times like this, leaders are at least maybe having an opportunity to say, hey, I appreciate my employees that come in here and bug me every day. I don't know, that could be one of the things, right? Or because you see some of the efficiencies that are coming out of maybe employees staying home, you go, what else can we create from this opportunity, right? Can we create a happier employee out of the fact that they don't have to come in and, see us as the bad boss? You never know. Being able to recognize these things is going to be key. All right, let's go to the last point that Rob was talking about that leaders can do during this time. Making sure they plan their time in their day for self-care. This is key. Leaders, you need to take care of yourself too. We know you've been burning yourself out. You've been working too much. Why? Because this is just the way our society is. We want to work and work and work. And now we're being forced. Get this. We're being forced to take a step back. Right? And during this time, I can tell you personally, I work so much, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, to 12 at night. This time I've been able to go, wait a minute, I don't have some teaching duties to do. I don't have to go to a workshop today. So maybe I can rest a little bit more. And I can tell you what, getting some extra sleep has been king, right? Oh my goodness, I think I got 9 hours last night, right? And then was able to take another nap. But the point is that because we now are being forced to take a step back, it may be that thing, that opportunity to do some self-care. What else are you doing? Are you getting your meditations in? I don't know if you meditate, right? Are you getting maybe a little bit more exercise in? Even though gyms are being told to, kind of watch how many people they have in, you may say, well, you know what? Maybe I'll take some more walks. I went out today earlier and I saw more people jogging than I had ever seen. Self-care. Maybe this is the thing that kicks it off. An unfortunate situation, but from that comes some other things. But leaders, you especially, it is going to be the time for you maybe to take time to have that self-care and to think about that and appreciate and all that good stuff. Okay. All right, let's finish up what Rob was talking about. And I think these are important things. It is imperative, he says, that leaders are pouring into themselves in this time where many of those that they lead will not be able to. You're going to have people out there that are just scared, right? We talked about that from the top. You now have an opportunity to speak to them, to talk to them, to calm them. As a leader, that is your job. We understand that leadership means the X's and O's, if you will, of business. We understand that it means the financial this, that, and the others. But your people, your teams, those are the folks that get it done for you. Pour into them, and at the same time, find a way to pour into yourself. And perhaps this will be the leadership thing that they needed to, get themselves back on track. And or if they have been on track, to just give them the opportunity to reflect on what's happening. Maybe they gain some appreciation as well. If they said, I can't stand going into this job, maybe they go, man, being off all this time, I really like my job. I like going into the cubicle. I like being around the folks. I like, just kind of, masterminding the folks. Who knows? Out of something like this may come some really good appreciations. But these are the 5 things in talking with Robert Heath Sr. about what leadership should be doing is what we were able to discuss. And I want to say, I was reading Rob's book and I started thinking about this as it relates to what's going on now. His book is why can't they just do their jobs, right? And I'll put a link to it up here if I can go ahead and put a link up here. I'll take a few minutes to do that and show you some of the things that he was talking about in the book and how relevant they are to a situation like this, right? The time where you're saying, why can't they just do their jobs? It may be those times where you have to reflect on yourself and ask yourself, why are they not encouraged to do their jobs? Why are they not incentivized to do their jobs a certain way? Or why are they not being led in a certain way to do their jobs? All right. Hey, guys, I hope this helped you a little bit. Hope it helped you frame things. I really want to say a shout out and appreciation to Robert Heath Sr. for sending these 5 things that leaders should be doing during times like this. I want to appreciate you guys in the work that you do as well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and get back on track. And we'll talk to you next time.